Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm reading to you from the northern interior area of British Columbia, Canada. I just fixed my camera a little bit here. And today I'm going to read you a ghost story, just maybe one or two short ghost stories. And these ones are ones from the east coast of Canada, from what we call our maritime provinces. And I'll read you one called The Grey Lady of Annapolis Royal. Many years ago, a small vessel sailed up the Annapolis Basin. It's a valley in, I believe, in Nova Scotia. On board was a lady dressed all in grey. Also on board was a deep sea fisherman from this part of Nova Scotia who was employed to run ships to foreign ports. A few days later, when the small vessel returned and sailed down the basin, the lady in grey was not to be seen. It was believed that the deep sea fisherman, who was married with a family living in the region, brought this lady back with him from a foreign port. He knew not what to do with her, so he took her ashore at Stony Beach on the Annapolis River. It's in Nova Scotia, not far from the habitation at Annapolis Royal, where he murdered her. He buried her body on the beach. This is the grey lady who appears to walk on the beach from time to time. Men and women who have seen her say that on a few occasions she wears a short skirt, but that on most occasions she appears to be wearing a long gown, a shawl, and a bonnet. All are colored gray. She glides along the shore. Her feet do not seem to touch the ground. Witnesses say she pauses from time to time, as if she wishes to unburden herself of the tragedy that has befallen her, but she disappears before a word can be spoken. Then we have another one, which is called, I'm going to read you another one here, another short one, and it's called The Fairy Queen. And the Fairy Queen was a passenger, a ferry passenger on the East Coast. And it went over to Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island has to be reached by, I'm not sure if it's an overnight boat trip or if it's just a couple hours. The Fairy Queen. A strange story is told of the fate of the passengers aboard the Fairy Queen. Without cause or reason, the bell of St. James Church in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, tolled a total of 8 times. Early Friday morning, October 7th, 1859. After 5 tolls, 2 men who lived in the vicinity went to investigate. They were startled when the bell tolled for the 6th time and the church doors were suddenly flung open, and inside there stood 3 women dressed in white. Just as suddenly the bell tolled for the 7th time and the doors swung shut. They tried the doors only to find them locked. Peering through a small window, they could see a lone woman in white ascend the stairs to the belfry. By this time, the minister and sexton had arrived to learn the cause of the disturbance. They unlocked the doors, and together the 4 men entered and found not a living soul in the body of the church. But as they made their way up the stairs to the belfry, they heard the bell toll for the 8th and last time. They found no one in the belfry, and the bell rope was securely tied. Everyone was puzzled. That evening, they were equally perplexed. when the Fairy Queen failed to arrive at the Charlottetown wharf. The passenger steamer regularly plied the Northumberland Strait between Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. They learned that it had left Pictou, and they knew that it was fine sailing weather. But the vessel never arrived at Charlottetown, a run of no more than half a day. It was some days before they learned that the vessel had sunk with the loss of 8 passengers, 5 men and 3 women. Had the bell of St. James Church foretold the disaster? Was it tolling a coincidence? Is it all a legend? That mystery remains unsolved to this day, noted writer Roland H. Sherwood. And I will read you one more short one called The Codfish Man. A lot of fishing on the east coast of Canada. Cod is one of their big catches out there. If you're strolling around the harbor of West St. John, which is in Newfoundland, New Brunswick. There's also St. John's, and that is in Newfoundland. St. John is in New Brunswick, correct. And if it is the evening of April 18th, you may be lucky and behold the sight of the Codfish Man. Watch out for an old man clad in oilskins and sou'wester who is trudging up from the wharves carrying a giant codfish over his shoulder. A cod so huge it hangs down his back and forces him to walk slightly bent forward. There's the belief, that if you follow him, you can catch up with him. But just as you are about to do so, he disappears and then reappears some 30 feet ahead. Later that evening, you may meet him again, sauntering back to the harbor without the giant codfish. If you want to know more about him, details are pretty sketchy. But the Codfish Man is believed to be the specter of Daniel Keymore, a fisherman in the days of sail. He drowned to the sorrow of his wife and young children who lived in a small house in West St. John. It seems that every year on the anniversary of his death, a giant cod was deposited on the doorstep of his house to the astonishment of his widow. The gifts from the sea continued to arrive until she remarried some years later. And that's all I have for the spook stories today. I've always liked reading spooky stories. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so the spookiness is something I quite enjoy. Always have since very young. So I will be back, not sure when, over the next day or two probably, to read you some more. I will probably read you a few more of the ghost stories. And I hope you enjoy. And so for today, April 3rd, 2022, coming to you from the northern interior of British Columbia, Canada, I read you some ghost stories from Canada's eastern coast in the provinces which we refer to as the Maritime Provinces. Lots of ocean and ship sailor ghost stories out there. One of the most haunted provinces in Canada, seconded by British Columbia, where I live. Okay, everyone, so I hope you have a good evening, and thanks for tuning in, and peace out. Good night. Peace to all.